Welcome to a new video. In this video, I'm going to talk about the absolute extreme values on the closed bounded regions. So, in the previous video, we talked about how to find the local maximum and the local minimum values for an equation, for example. But here, we need to find the maximum and the minimum values in a rectangular region. So, let's take an example here. For example, find the absolute extreme values of, for example, f of x comma y, and then equals to 4x plus 6y minus x square and then negative y square. And he told you that this equation is over the rectangle R, and then we open a parenthesis, we say x comma y 0. Okay, so this is the information for this question. So we need to find the absolute extreme values. Okay, so first step to solve this equation, we need to find the partial derivatives with respect to x and y in the first. So starting with fx, so we find that 4x is going to be 4, 0, negative 2x, and then 0. So after we find the partial derivative, we equal it to 0, as we said in the previous video. To find the extreme values after the partial derivative, you make it equal to 0 and try to find it or solve it. So here, if we solve this equation, we can move this negative 2x to the right side, so it becomes 4 is going to equal to 2x. So if we divide the 4 over 2, we get the value of x is going to be equal to 2. Okay, and then let's find the fy. Fy here is going to equal to 0. We will get 6, 0, then negative 2y. And then, of course, we say that it's equal to 0, and then we try to solve it with y. So we can take negative 2y to the right side, and it becomes 6 equal to y. So if we divide the 6 over 2, the y value is going to be equal to 3. So from this equation, or from these two, we knew that we have a point, it's 2 comma 3. 2 for the x and 3 for the y. And of course, these r must be inside the r. So notice here that the 2 is between the 0 and the 4, and the 3 here is also between 0 and the 5. Okay? So we need to find the value of these points. So what we need to do, we need to substitute these points in this original equation to find its value at this point. So f of 2 comma 3 is going to be equal to here 4 times 2 is going to be equal to 8, and then plus 6y, so 6 times 3 is going to be 18, and then negative 2 square is going to be 4, and then negative 3 square is going to be equal to 9. And then the answer is going to be 13. So at this point, we have a value of 13. Okay, so this is the first step. The second step here, what you need to do, we need to draw. Let's draw, for example, x and y coordinates here. Okay, here we have the x values, and here, of course, we have the y values. So from here, we can see that here said that x is greater or equal to 0 and less than or equal to 4, which means that the biggest value in the x coordinates is going to be what? It's going to be 4. Here it's going to be 4. And in the y values, or in the y-axis, you can say that that y is greater or equal to 0 and less than or equal to 5, which means that the highest value for the y to be is 5, or to reach, you can say. So from here, let's take a point here. We have this point here. So let's name this point as B, for example. And here we also have a point. We can name it as C. And we also have a point here called A. And we also have a point here called, let's make it, for example, O. So here we have a point, 4 points, rectangular, you can see, rectangular region. So from here, we have 4 steps to finish this example. The first step, we need to investigate what is happening in this region in every line. So we need to find from O to A, and from A to B, and from B to C, and from C to O. Okay, so before I start, let me just make a space a little here to start solving every line. Okay, so let's start, for example, here. Let's start from 0 to A. Okay, so we can write, yeah, so on 0 or O to A at this line, okay? So what is happening here in the x-axis on OA? So the first step that you need to do or to know that when you are investigating or noticing something in the x-axis, notice that the y is always become or always 0, right? And also in the y-axis, we don't deal with the x values. So if you're dealing with x-axis, we say that y equals 0, right? And if we're dealing, for example, in the y-axis, we say that x equals 0, right? Just keep that in mind. So starting here on OA, we need to write that y is equal to 0. And that's really correct because we're not dealing anything with the y's. We're dealing only on the x-axis. And the region for the x is here. So we write x is greater than or equal to 0 and less than or equal to 4. So this is the first step. After writing y equals 0, x greater than or equal to 0 and less than or equal to 4, let's write the function. So because the y is gonna equal, or because the y is 0, because we're dealing in the x-axis, so we need to write that f of x comma 0. Why did I write here x? Why did I write, for example, anything? Because here we're dealing with x values. So let's say, for example, we're dealing from A to B, for example. So here is gonna be a number, and in the Y space here, I will be writing Y. Okay, so in every step, uh, the first, for example, in the X values become the same, or you don't change it, but in the Y you need to change it. It depends on which value you are dealing with here. So yeah, let's name, for example, this function g of x. It's just a name. That's okay. And the g of x here, it's gonna be equal to 4x negative x square. Why did I write 4x negative x square? Because here, notice this, the y is 0. So if you put the 0 in the y's here, so those cancels. So what will be left is 4x negative x square. Okay, so this value become for the y and x. Then let's take its derivative. So the derivative of the g prime of x, taking its derivative, it's gonna be 4 negative 2x. Okay, after you take its derivative, try to solve it. We solved also this one in the partial derivative with respect to x, so both are the same. We just changed the name. Okay, so from here, when we solve the x, we get that x is gonna equal to 2. X here, x is equal to 2. And we need to write that to this, it belong or between the 0 and the 4, right? So between or belong 0 comma 4. Now we just need to substitute all the numbers we have. We have the 2, 0, and 4. So we need to write the g of 2. It's gonna be equal f of, we need to use the x values, the 2 number, 2, and then comma, the y here is gonna be 0. So we have this function or this number. Put these numbers in the original equation and you will find its value. So the value is gonna be 4. The second value, we have the 0, we have here 2, 0, and 4. So we need to substitute, or we need to do this step 3 times. So g of 0 is gonna be f of 0 comma 0, and it's gonna be 0. And g of 4, it's equals to f4 comma 0, and the value is going to be equal to 0. And yeah, this is the first line, you can say, from O to A. So let's go to the other value, or to the other line. Let's cancel or delete those. And yeah, going to the other line, we can say uh, on A to B, or on AB, we can say on AB. So what is happening on AB? On AB, we need to notice that we're dealing in y axis. So what is the value of x? So here, when we are dealing in the x values, we need to know what y is going on with it. So y is 0. But what about the y? Here, y is the important thing. But what about the secondary, which is the x, that we will not use it? So the x here is going to equal to 4, because x and this point is 4 also here. Okay? So we can write x equal to 4, and we write the y equation or values, because it's where the line is heading. So we can say that y is greater or equal to 0, less than or equal to 5. We took it from here, and then we write f of, what is the value of x in this equation? Is 4, right? So here 4, and y is gonna written as y. We don't write anything with y. So notice when we were writing from O to A, we wrote f x comma 0. Why? Because the y here is 0 and the x is going to be written as x. So here is the same thing. Here is the same thing. So here the x is 4 and the y is still y. Then equals, let's name for example this equation h, for example h of y. Then gonna be equal to 6y negative y square. Why did I write only those values? Because if you put the 4 here, it's going to be 4 times 4, 16. And the 4 squared is 16. So both of them will cancel. And what's left is 6y negative y square. And then comma. And the region of the y is between the 0 and 5. So let's take its derivative right now, h prime of y. It's going to be 6 negative 2y equal to 0. And solving the y, we get the value of 3, and the 3 belong or between 0 and 5. So from this step, what we need to do is just put on the numbers. Just substitute numbers. Let's find the value of 3 and the value of 0 and the value h of 5. So the first one here, h of 3, it's written as f of 4 comma 3. We took this 4 because here x is gonna be equal to 4. And then the 3 here in the y values. So 4 is to each equation. And here f of 4 comma 0, and here f of 4 comma 5. So if you put these numbers in this equation, you will get the value of 9. And if you put the values 4 comma 0, you will get the value of 0. And if you put the value of 4 comma 5, you will get the value of 5. You can try them. So this is the second line. Okay, last 2 steps left. We need to find from B to C, or BC and CO. Okay, so let's write from BC, or from B to C, on line BC. So what is happening on BC? What is happening on BC here, notice that we are on the x-axis here. Here we are on the x-axis. Okay, so we need to find the point of the y. So what's the point of the y? The y point here is 5. So we need to write y equal to 5. Okay, and then we write the bounded region in the x. So x is greater or equal than 0 and less than or equal to 4. So let's write the function of x here. So dealing with x-axis, x is still the same and the y changes. So the y here is 5. So it becomes like this way. Okay, so let's name this equation for example, k. So we write k of x is equal to, for example, 4x negative x square and then plus 5. Okay, so why did I write here plus 5? Here, here we have 4x and negative x squared. Okay, so in the y's, I substitute the 5 here. So it's going to be 6 times 5, 30. And then negative 5 squared is going to be 25. So 30 negative 25 is 5. So this is the same answer here, okay? Okay, let's continue. Yeah, then you write its region x greater or equal to 0, smaller or equal, less than or equal to 5. Oh, sorry, to 4. It's x regions. Yeah, then you uh, take its derivative and substitute the numbers like we did in from 0 to a and ab. So let's take the derivative of k prime of x. So it's going to be 4 negative 2x, 4 comma 2x. So finding the x value is going to be equal to 2, and 2 belong from 0 to 4. So from here, we can, or we need to find 3 answers: k of 2 and k of 0 and k of 4. Okay, so from here we write k of 2 is going to equal to f of 2 and then comma, and the y is going to be 5 here, and 0 here is the same. We say f of 0 comma 5, and here f of 4 comma 5. And the solution, if you put these numbers in this equation, you will get the value of 2 comma 5 is going to be equal to 9, and f of 0 comma 5 is going to be 5, and 4 comma 5 is going to be equal to 5. So this is the answers from BC or in BC line. So the final line to finish this solution, what's left is to find the CO. So after finding the CO, you can find the then after you find the CO, you can uh, see every number that has the maximum number and the minimum number. So that's why it's called the absolute numbers. Okay. So here we can write on CO here. So what's happening here on CO? On CO. What's happening here that we have the x values here and x is equal to 0. This is the first step. And then y greater or equal than 0 and less than or equal to 5. Okay. So from here, we say that f of 0 comma y, here we wrote 0 because x is gonna, or x is equal to 0 here, and then equals, let's name this equation as, for example, L. So L of y is equal to the equation 6y negative y squared. If you put the 0 in the x's, the x cancels, so what's left? 6y negative y squared. And then y greater than or equal to 0 and less than or equal to 5. So taking its derivative, L comma y is equal to 6 minus 2y equal to 0. So solving the y, you get the value of 3, and 3 between the 0 and the 5. Okay, so let's take its values. So you can take the value of the L of 3, okay, and we write it as L of 0, comma 3, 0 for the x and 3 for the y. And you can see that its answer, if you substitute, if you put these numbers in the original equation, you find that the value is 9. And also you can find the 0 and the 5, but we don't really need them. So you can solve them and find and see their values. Okay, so to finish this solution, okay, we can notice that the highest value that we get from all here, including this solution, we have 13, and we have the 9, and we have the 5, and we have 0, including to all solution that we get. And we have also the 4. So notice here that the highest or the maximum value in these answers, it's 13. So what you need to write, you need to write the absolute point value. Absolute value is, and you write, it depends on which point you are dealing with. Let's say this is the highest point. So we say f of 2 comma 3 equal to 13. You gave its answer. And what about the minimum? So you say absolute dot minimum value is, for example, here the minimum value is f of 0 comma 0, and also f of 4 comma 0. So both of them, their answer is 0, because yes, this answer is correct, because the minimum value is 0 and the maximum value is 13. And yeah, this is how you can solve it. You can maybe solve this equation again if you change the number. So what you'll get only, for example, different numbers, but at least you can know how you can deal with it. For example, you can make another equation that you can solve, change the 4 and 6, and yeah, you can deal with it. You can make it here, for example, 10, and here you can make it 5. And yeah, try the same steps that I did, and you can find its absolute minimum and the absolute maximum. I hope this video was really helpful, and thanks for watching. بتمنى كان الخطوات اللي حكيتها كانت واضحة. في حال عندكم أي مشكلة أو أي استفسار فيكم تتواصلوا معي عن طريق الإيميل، أو فيكم تحطوا تعليقات بالكومنت. And yeah, see you in the next video.